Good evening, everyone. Welcome into another episode of Triple Coverage Podcast. Going to roll it over to double coverage here for a little bit, and our friend Anthony Romeo will join us here in a little while as well for some interesting conversation. Only one person beside me tonight. To my right, Benjamin Shoop. What's up, Shoop?
Nothing much. Obviously we've been it's been that time of the year where it's after the draft, so it's kind of that weird period of time for NFL. We've obviously been entertaining ourselves off camera when it comes to the NBA because our two teams are going against each other, and you've been enjoying it a little bit more than I have. But it's
Oh,
still
have I? I didn't plan on this, but let's talk a little bit about the New York Knicks versus Boston Celtics, should we? I mean, two games in a row with 20-point leads, and they blew it to the
yeah.
Knicks and to
I
the
mean,
clutch player of the year, Jalen Brunson, beating the Celtics twice at home to start the series. Now I'm nervous. Can they win in New York? I don't know. Is Boston going to sweep in New York? That's something that's on my mind. I'm nervous that the Knicks won't defend home court either, but that remains to be seen. So right now, it's all me. You said.
yeah, it's not been the best, but the Celtics are a better road team, I guess, than this year. They're the best home road team in the league, so we'll see what goes on there. But yeah, you've definitely been a little rough these past few days when it comes to that team. They'll live and die by the threes, but as much as I think everybody would love to hear us go on about the Celtics and Knicks, we do have some Bills stuff to talk about. But yeah, hopefully by next show it's a little bit more even when it comes to Celtics and Knicks part of our rivalry with there. So
Right on, right on. Yeah, Bills are back in town, right? So you have some rookies coming in for the first time to One Bills Drive and getting a feel of what the practice format and just coaches and staff and how that all that's going to look. So just take us through the rookie numbers were released. Just anything that you've seen. Our thumbnail here shows Josh Palmer and Elijah Moore seemingly already hitting it off. So anything with that you've seen between the guys coming back and just uh, all of that and then the rookie numbers, and we'll kind of get into a little bit of what we saw with the embedded episode they just released as well.
yeah, the numbers are always something that I think everybody is interested in when it comes to that. As we're joined here by Mr. Anthony Romeo. Welcome
What's up,
in.
everybody?
How
Sorry,
you
I'm
doing
not
before
the
we
Good to
jump
be
king
here
of
in?
again.
smooth transitions. I was just going to pop it up and let you keep rolling, but apparently that didn't work out so well. Anthony, how are you, my man? We kind of said you were going to join us, so I just was going to pop you on here and have Ben finish a little bit
Yeah,
about
sorry about that.
Oh
better
no,
late
you're
than never, I say.
Yeah, that's right. I had to, finishing up dinner with the kids and trying to help the wife so I could get down here and get started with you guys. So I apologize for being late, but excited to talk all things Bills today. It's an exciting time, with the rookies and everything, like you were saying, Lance. You set up very nicely. So without further ado, Ben, feel free to
yeah,
continue.
no, yeah. We didn't really get. Well, we actually hadn't got going with the Bills. Really, we were talking a little bit about Knicks Celtics before, since me and Lance have that rivalry. But yeah, with the Bills, numbers. Everybody loves to find out the numbers because whose jersey are people going to want? What numbers are going to look good? Some interesting numbers, I think, though, this year. We were talking a little bit before. I was telling Lance some of the numbers here are a little bit interesting. Even just right off the bat with the first round pick, Maxwell Harrison going with number 31. I can't remember the last 31 that the Bills have had on their roster. But I will say it's better than some numbers when it comes to corners there. Like I do think it's like better than 30, 32 numbers like that. But he's got 31. We got Sanders coming in with 98. Landon Jackson's 94. Deion Walker is 96. Jordan Hancock 37, which I found very interesting again for kind of a DB 37. You don't see very much. And then Hawes, the tight end, does take Quentin Morris's number 85. So even if Quentin Morris did end up coming back, he's gonna have to pick a new number there. So he's 85. We got Dorian Strong with 43, which took me a second as soon as I saw that one. I just got Bernard's brand new number 8 jersey, and I still forgot that he changed numbers. So 43, no longer Bernard. He is 8 for anybody that has forgotten. And Dorian Strong takes that. Lunt takes 77, and then Prather takes 81. So some numbers that I feel like we haven't seen, at least when it comes to some stars with the Bills. But definitely like some of the numbers. I do kind of rock with 37 there with Hancock, and especially I always love the tight ends going in the 80s. It just feels right.
Well, I saw the 94 stood out to me, right? Because that's Aaron Schobel's old number, right, with the Bills. That was one that I immediately thought, okay, all right, he's making a statement here with that number, saying, Aaron Schobel, Bills legend, if you will, right? So
one of my favorite edge rushers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the best the Bills have had in our lifetime since Bruce Smith, obviously. So definitely saw that and thought very fondly of Aaron Schobel and said, okay, I like it. That's a good number for a pass rusher, somebody hitting the quarterback. Let's go. So hopefully that one works out. But you're right. The rest, I was more like, oh, these are mostly unique. I
thought how many Mario Williams jerseys are going to need to be converted now to Landon Jackson here. So that's what
the fans always get creative with that. Yeah, that's true. The tank
I don't know
whatever.
I don't know if the Bills do this, but the Sabres do, where you can take it to the store and you can get the nameplate changed without anything else being changed. I think it's like $20, $25. So I'm wondering if the Bills do something similar. Obviously, they might not, but the Sabres do that, where that you can just it takes 2 or 3 weeks, they ship it right out, get it right back. It's a different number. I did that with my Eichel jersey. I'm wondering if they would do that. So if anybody does end up going to try to see if they can do that, let us know, because I'd personally love to see about some numbers getting changed on the back of jerseys, or names getting changed on the back of jerseys.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to have to inquire about that. So the Bills released a new. Do you have anything more on numbers, Romeo? I don't think there's really much to talk about other than just to mention they are there, and 31 for Max Harrison, first round pick, and that'll be a jersey that might be a little more than all the others. So
that's right. Yeah. The only thing that stood out
as well.
Yeah, hey, why not, right? He should be our starter for the next few years, and man, he could be a superstar as well, which would be awesome on this defense next to Bernard on the other side. So yeah, give me that all day, right?
And as I said that I forgot, I can't remember the last person that wore 31. Rasul Douglas did wear 31. I completely blanked on that one. And yes, Jerry Hughes was number 55, so Hoyt takes that there. But yeah, I guess completely drew a blank on that one. I guess he only wore it for a little bit of time, but other than Rasul Douglas, not many other big names were in 31.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even Rasul's time was temporary with us, right? So I wouldn't. Aaron Schobel for the win on those numbers for sure.
Right on. Yeah, Schobel definitely was a big one for me, but I think as far as popularity, Mario Williams probably had the 94. More 94s out there for him. Maybe not. I know Schobel played a longer time, and I had Aaron Schobel's. I'm old enough to have had a poster on my wall. I don't know if people do that still, but I had the Aaron Schobel poster on the wall as a kid. So it's I
remember
memory.
having the Aaron Schobel jersey, the red, white, and blue one with the white stripe up top, and the not so fashionable ones, if you ask me. But that was one of my first jerseys that I really owned. So.
Very cool.
Wish I still had that one, but I don't think it fit anymore.
Yeah, a lot of guys reminiscing about this. Numbers do bring out some memories, and JD Williams here from Scott. So appreciate you sharing that with us. Obviously, get on Facebook and YouTube to get on the comments with us. We love to chop it up with you. And Roy, Scott said he was showing his age. I guess Roy's going to be a get off my lawn guy today and tell us he doesn't care about numbers or what. But Roy, we have to talk about it, brother. I mean, I'm sorry, but we do have to talk about.
I always think, I will say when they changed the numbers rules, I never thought of myself as like the old man screaming at the sky. But when they changed the numbers rules, I absolutely hate it. I hate the change in numbers rule. I'm like, why is it? Why are there single digit guys running all over the field? Basically, right? Like, no, this is nonsense. That you're a defensive end. You should not have a single digit.
Yeah. But I will say, I hated it at first. Some guys can pull it off. Some guys can. Some guys can't now. So now it's kind of like just depends on the player for me.
Didn't Dotson try to do it? Was he 8 or something?
Dotson, I think, was 2. I want to say he was like a weird number in Seattle, and I will say it's going to take getting used to with some of those players. Like Bernard, it's going to take getting used to with 8. Like that's not on.
I don't. So
yeah, well, because Strong took 43, and I'm like 43.
Right. That's Bernard.
I was like, geez, that takes a minute for sure. But yeah,
Roy.
very cool. Like I'm a
Oh,
numbers
I
guy.
won.
I'm into math, and my 5-year-old's into numbers too. All we do a lot of times is watch something with along numbers and all that stuff. So I definitely enjoy, the number stuff. But Bills Embedded came out with some of the rookies here that we were talking about their numbers, and man, was that an emotional. And I saw some comments on that episode, and like, man, give us more, inject this into our veins. Like, yeah, like, dude, that episode, was jerking at the old heartstrings too. You see how personal and how much it means to these guys, which obviously you can understand. It's life changing being drafted in the NFL, and not only from monetary standpoint, just realizing a dream of you've worked so hard at something for so long, and now it's finally culminated in this moment, and what a cool thing. And obviously Max Hairston is the star of the show, just all energy and just everything everything you hope for in a first round pick. He has the promise and the skill and the speed, right? And so just very exciting. But very cool to see some of the inside, some of where they met, and some of the war room where they're having conversations about the guys, getting their guys. So it kind of gives you an idea of what they were thinking. And then they kind of touched again on Brandon Beane's comments on WGR with the bitching about the wide receiver and things. And again, I just think it's great that Brandon stood up for his guys for sure, and just a matter of. But then at the same time, right, goes out and gets Elijah Moore, and I think it was more of, again, Brandon Beane knew he had a plan in mind. He knew where he was going and what he was doing, and what I wanted to remind people is it takes just as much energy to be positive. I know it's critiquing is the cool thing, but like you can be excited about this team too. It doesn't hurt you. This team is
100%.
exciting. It just made the AFC Championship game.
100%.
It's been to the divisional round so many times. Like, God, like
This was
I
me
know they're not
screaming
perfect, but
last
they're
off
just
season.
yeah, they're very much a contending team, and we need to just remember like this team is going to be good. They're good. They've been good. They're going to be good. And I know we want the ultimate win the championship, but we cannot have every little thing, as Brandon Beane reminded. You can't have every little thing. So please like, share, and subscribe. As my comment producer John is reminding me, we are sponsored by Monster Energy Drink, the official energy partner of Built-In Buffalo. And you'll see also the helmet over my shoulder here by Buffalo Belia Sports and More. So if you take a minute over on Facebook, go to Buffalo Belia Sports and More. A great dude, Frank, runs that thing, and he works so hard at that craft. I just love the helmets he produced, and he was able to gift us one here, and that's very, very cool. And we bring it out to the Big Tree Inn. So shout out to Big Tree Inn and the Water Buffalo, the other hat over my shoulder, Water Buffalo Club 716. Check them out. We are at every home game there over at the Big Tree with the Water Buffalo Club and other folks. So really good time, and appreciate everyone who works with us and all that. So yeah, so let's get into this. I kind of went a long way and then took a break for the sponsor thing, but into the embedded thing, I guess we found out. At first, I guess, give your general thoughts of embedded, and then we have a couple questions around the episode there. So if you didn't see it already, we're probably going to spoil a couple things here, but this is what content's available to us at this time. So we're going to talk about what we have and available to us. So Shub, if you want to start, just any general things on the embedded episode, and if once you're ready there, and once Romeo gives some things, you can kind of take us through a couple of your questions here that you drafted up.
Yeah. Yeah, if you haven't watched it, I highly suggest watching it. It's just gives a really cool behind the scenes. They really basically just sit Brandon Bean down and have him talk about the process over the 3 days and what their thought process were. And there's some behind the scenes of when they're at the combine and just talking to guys at their meetings there. So it's a really just kind of cool behind the scenes thing of being able to kind of see how the NFL operates a little bit. Obviously not completely, but you get a little bit of behind the scenes there. So highly suggest going to watch it. It was just kind of cool to see even just how they think about certain drafts, right? I know Brandon Bean talked a little bit about the one thing that stood out to me is he talked about how certain drafts, if they're strong in one area, they might be thinking, oh, well, maybe next year won't be as strong, or maybe a certain guy that goes in the 4th round here next year will go in the 2nd or 1st round, which when people are looking at the drafts or anything, they don't think about that type of thing. And I even, that wasn't necessarily thinking about it until I heard him say that about, man, they really are thinking a year or 2 years out ahead. And that even alludes to Lance's point about Elijah Moore, about how they're even looking months ahead. They're looking 2 months ahead of just in general for their team. So that's why they're always saying to be patient, let them work. If something doesn't come up, they'll figure it out later on. I mean, even last year with receivers, just alluding to the Elijah Moore point, if they do feel a need to get a receiver, they could do it midseason. And they talk about those types of things in the embedded about how they have a plan. They have multiple plans if certain things happen. But it's really just a cool thing. So yeah, I highly suggest going to it. Before we get into the questions here though, Romeo, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start at the beginning here with just the whole Buffalo embedded series, right? As far as I know, the Bills were really one of the first teams to say we kind of want to do our own behind the scenes kind of NFL, show in lieu of the HBO show, right? And all that stuff that happens, right? So it's not Hard Knocks, but and Hard Knocks has been criticized over the years, right? That teams hate it because they're in their face and they're whatever. So the Bills really took this idea and said, we like the concept, but we're going to run it, right? So we get to filter what goes through this content, and we get to decide the message and what tone we want to put across. It's not the Hard Knocks. We need to make it for TV and ham it up a little bit and follow this guy who we know is going to get cut and all this. And with that, the Bills have really done a masterful job with this entire series. I encourage you to go back. I think it's been 3 years now, at least, of the embedded series, and it's phenomenal. The whole thing, every episode, just really reels you in and sucks you in, gets you that emotional state, and hypes you up big time. And it's just awesome. The emotional stories that get put into it of the guys that are on this team and that really long term is really what they focus on. You're not going to see many of the 1-year deal guys in there. I mean, obviously they showed Joey Bosa, but what was the focus of episode 1 this year, right? It was all the guys we re-signed. It was going to Christian Benford and all these guys and getting to know them personally and the guys behind the player on the field, and then knowing how it translates to their play on the field, seeing them sign these big contracts and change their lives, like Lance was saying in the beginning. And then also the behind the scenes part, again, for the last 3 years, getting to see Brandon Beane work and how the war room works and how excited they got for some of the picks and some of the other ones where it was like, maybe there's something showing there because they're trying to twist it one way, but that's not really how it was. But you could tell it's awesome for that sense alone. Just seeing the behind the scenes, how Beane operates, how Beane is emotionally during this time as well, because it's emotional for the team too. And when they're celebrating in the room and they're high-fiving and getting excited, it makes you amped up to be like, wow, they really wanted this guy, right? And even on our coverage, I had said, like, there's no doubt that the Bills got their guys, right? They went with their guy at 30. They went with, trading up to get their guy. There's no question they got their guys in this draft, right? And at least the top 3. So it was awesome to see, that translate and that emotional part that they do so well. Because if you watch that and you aren't absolutely running through a wall for the Buffalo Bills, you don't have a pulse. I'm telling you, like it's awesome. You could show it to not a Bills fan and they would be hyped for the Bills. I'm telling you, it is that good. So consider this a plug for that show for the Bills. But it really is just awesome work. Awesome. I don't know who their film team and all that is, but they deserve to be paid twice as much because it is really that good when it comes to the content, the football. You learn something. It's emotional. Every step they've checked the box, right? And they've really become better and better at it through the years. So this version of it, even after episode 1, I was like, damn, they've raised the bar again. I feel it again. So yeah, it's awesome to have that. And I'm glad the Bills do this every year now.
Lance, do you got anything before we go into the questions?
No, I kind of gave my piece there at the start. So I think I've said what I can say about that.
Yeah. And Romeo, you nailed it there with just, it's you wish that you'll watch it and you'll wish that there's more of it once you get to the end. So highly suggest not just this one, like you said, go back, watch all of them. I know the Sabres do one too. If you're Sabres fans, that one might piss you off a little more than the Bills ones might. So might want to steer clear of that one if you're looking to just get fired up and amped up for a Buffalo sports team. More watch the Bills ones. But yeah, we have three quick things that kind of stood out here that we hadn't talked about too much. Really, we talked obviously, Hairston the past few weeks, and he's been the focal point. But they did mention in this past episode that if Hairston was gone, TJ Sanders was a guy that might have been in play at 30, which, I mean, I know that they didn't get him too much later, but in NFL terms, 30 and 41 is a pretty sizable difference. So are you guys shocked that they kind of mentioned Sanders there? Because Sanders wasn't really a guy that was projected to go that high. Lance, we'll start with you. What do you think? Like, was it kind of a shock to hear that when they said that about TJ Sanders?
Not really. I understand how people's processes are and how they move through their draft process and they build their board and that kind of thing. But I really think that the Bills march to the beat of their own drum in a lot of ways in this league, and not only with the roster construction element and different things within their organization, but I think with their draft board as well, they build it because they know they have a good base, right, to build off of. They may not need all the things that fans think like, oh, they need this guy, they need this 350-pound giant man to anchor the defense. And they cannot possibly go into the season without that person. So they have to have Tyreek Williams at the top of their board, whatever it may be. This is an example. They don't. They have their board, they build it how they want, and they have the luxury of doing that. But they really seem to, it's traits, not only what they did last year, 2 years prior, what can we ourselves build upon on this player that maybe hasn't been shown on film in their college. Maybe they did it in high school and they think they can really do that, but they weren't asked to in college, and they have the traits to do that sort of thing, but they weren't asked to in college. But we can get that out of them because we believe in ourselves and our staff. And so I just really think it's neat how we get a little insight into that and how they build their board. And TJ Sanders was just up there for them because they had him pegged with what traits they needed and what they wanted to fill in this draft as far as their draft process goes. And it is maybe surprising to some. I guess I'm not really shocked because they just, again, they do their own thing. They have their own ways and they don't waver just because certain people think they should do X, Y, or Z. And I'm convinced that they would have done one thing or another. Like if Matthew Golden somehow dropped in their lap, they're probably going to take the wide receiver there. Potentially. I'm not saying it's 100%, but I really think they would have. It'd be kind of crazy not to, but they're not going to go and reach if they just kind of sit there and don't spend assets unnecessarily, unless it's, again, they had this target on TJ Sanders. They spent the assets to go up and get him. And then they got back into the third round because we know they love picking the third round. And then obviously they traded up in the fourth round as well to the front of that, back to with the Bears again, back to where they were at 109. So just kind of interesting how they moved around. But overall, no, I'm not super surprised or even like upset that they would have taken him there. It just, I think their plan is that we don't have the blueprint here, and I think they certainly do. And I like their blueprint. I like, I don't always say I don't claim to know their plan. I'm not some wizard that's inside info. I understand that, but like I understand the game, and I really understand that this organization, this regime is good at what they do. So I kind of like to just see, I more get interested in analyzing after they make the decision versus trying to predict what they're going to do beforehand.
What do you got, Romeo?
Yeah, I mean, Lance hit the nail on the head there with a lot of it, I think. Agree with a lot of that, including all the Malachi Starks talk before the draft, right? Like, oh, the Bills really love him and they're going to go after him. I never thought he was going to be close to 30. So I never had that dream, but I agreed that if he were on the board, sure, Bean and McDermott would be excited for a player like that, just because that's a guy that should have gone top 15. And if he's still there at 30 and can change your team that much, of course you're going to take that guy. And that's the luxury you have of being a good team who's picking at the end of the draft. Everything else aligns with what I've been saying about this draft class all along, which is because there were only 15 first-round guys or whatever the number was for a lot of these teams, less than usual was the general consensus. That the back half of that draft, of the first round especially, was a spot where it was like, well, trade out, right? If you can, you want to trade out. And I'm sure Bean did do his due diligence of taking calls to, see who wanted to trade or whatever. The general consensus, though, was, again, there wasn't going to be a lot of action at the bottom of the draft because there wasn't much to trade up for. And that whole chunk of guys from about 19 down to 50 were in that same tier of level, right? You had the top tier guys, really only a couple. The next tier was a whole melting pot of guys. So my perspective was trade back if you can, get more of those guys in that same pot. But also, if you're picking at 30, take your guy, right? Take your guy. I don't care who it is. Take your guy. They were able to then say, you know what? We would have taken this guy at 30. He's still there at 41. We got to take him. We have to go back and get him because in our minds now we've got 230 picks in this draft, which is nuts, right? Like, hey, that's a win already. You've got two guys you would have taken at 30. So I believe that it doesn't surprise me at all. I don't think it should surprise anybody because this was a guy the Bills were high on. Clearly, they traded up for him. And if they had picked him at 30, again, it just says that's your guy. That's who you wanted, right? So I agree with the evaluation, in terms of where he was. It wasn't the player I thought they were going to pick when they traded up. But, again, you go out and you get your guy and you say, this is where you have him ranked. And getting it back to the embedded series too, we see some of that behind the scenes stuff, right? And we know what Bean and McDermott look for, right? If you're a wrestler, you're on the radar, all right? Because they love that, right? It's just something McDermott connects with. If you have a good, personality, whatever you want to call it, your roots are really nailed down and you are a good person, you're genuine. They love that, right? You can look at Keon Coleman, not the most eloquent guy when he comes out. He's not shirt and tie, but you know what he is? 100% genuine. And the same thing, you see that with Harrison, right? 100% genuine. And that comes, if any guy who's like that checks the box. High character, genuine, like that is already on the Bills' radar. I don't care what position it is, you're on the radar, right? And that's what the Bills look for in general. Bean and McDermott look for character guys like that. And a lot of these guys definitely check those boxes when you hear them speak after the picks or when you see the behind the scenes and in the embedded series when you get to see them interviewing, right? Because that's always a piece we get none of before the draft, right? We have no idea what they're interviewing, like what questions they're asking them. And it really depends on the player, right? To Lance's point earlier, if you're confident in the player's skills on the field, but they haven't done something that your offense does or whatever, because they just weren't asked to, that's probably going to come up in the interview and you're probably going to drill them on it. Be like, okay, here's the play. Here's this. What do you do in this? Whatever, and if that guy is ready for it and says, I'll do whatever you need me to, and I'm going to do this, that, and here's how I'll prepare for that, that's going to check those boxes for them, right? And I think that was the case with a TJ Sanders where they were like, okay, this guy is it. Like, we like this guy. He's checking every box for us. This is exactly what we need. Even if it wasn't what they went into the draft thinking initially, we need defensive tackle help. But most people thought it would be the big guy, the huge one tech nail fill the hole, right? But I love the pick. It's more so in hindsight looking back and saying, okay, this guy can really do great things for this team. But I think it was really that process of getting to know the player and getting to know, their football acumen, all of these guys really. And it really gets you excited for what's to come, especially with these top guys that are going to be solid pieces moving forward. But really the whole draft class, I mean, you can go all the way down. What teams get excited for a third string tight end, right? The Bills, I'm pumped to see that guy in this offense, right? So that's the nature of the draft when you're a really good team. You're filling in, or special teams, right? Another contribution part that the Bills always look for with guys, especially later in the rounds, right? You have to be able to contribute on special teams to make this roster as a reserve, basically.
Yeah, the amount of like niche roles that they're able to kind of like target, I think, is pretty interesting. Like, okay, this guy's got to be able to do. We don't have this guy to do these 3 things on our offense, like cause, let's say, like we need to fill that role. Let's see what he can do. And it's like, if he doesn't do it, we'll find somebody else to do it. We have, maybe Reggie Gilliam can be adequate, but maybe this guy can be really special at doing these few things. And they have the luxury because they have obviously Josh Allen at quarterback, and that all runs through him. But like I said, this roster was built with such a great base. They have the ability now to fill in these pieces, and this is what we're going to see them doing. And they have such a pinpoint amount of bulleted tasks, let's say, or roles that these guys are going to play. It just, to me, it's sort of just impressive more than anything. And I get interested in getting the behind the curtains of that. It's really, to me, like I said, I love the Embedded series for that reason. It's pretty special.
Yeah, when it comes to even to your point earlier was about how they look for these character guys. Landon Jackson, that was the one thing one of the first things they said about him was he's part of the Bills culture when it comes to just puts his head down, does his work, has his family, he's already married, just a guy that loves football and wants to continue to go from there. And even they did mention even with TJ Sanders as well. TJ Sanders was a guy who didn't start playing football until I believe it was his sophomore year of high school, maybe even junior year of high school. And just how the switch of they got into the points of how they kind of asked him, well, when did it switch to where football became your favorite over basketball? Because he was a basketball player first. He was not a football player. And just how for a guy that's only been playing for 4 years, the knowledge that he has of the game of football after joining only a few years ago is something that they do look in, and we won't know that until after the draft. Like you said, it's something we won't know until they put it out there. So it is kind of something that, yes, they look at the tape, they look at how the player is on the field, but that's not always the only things that are really big for them. And they look for these traits of, well, how long were you playing? How much do you love the game? How much are you willing to really work at this to continue to get better at the highest level there possibly is? So, yeah, I mean, Sanders was a guy that I think if people would have known that, would have definitely liked it right away more. Because I know some people were like, oh, Sanders at 41. That was not, like you said, he wasn't the guy that many people expected them to really get. But yeah, it's something that we don't know. And then once they come out with it, it's like, oh, okay, that kind of changes their mind there of what they think about it. And yeah, even what's like Steve said, even with all these guys, a lot of them were mocked higher, some of them were mocked lower. I mean, Deion Walker, the guy in the fourth round before the season, was projected to go top 15, top 10. Obviously, he had the back injury, didn't have as good of a year. But these are things that people kind of gloss over because they're like, oh, well, they hear this, they see this on the film. Well, there's other things from 2 years ago. Like Lance said, what were they doing in high school, or what were they doing in their first year in college? A lot of these guys go to multiple schools now. Well, their first year in college, they might have been at Alabama, asked to do something, and then they go to Ohio State and they're asked to do something completely different. So it is something that they look at, not just the past season, they look at years prior, they look at their experience. And a guy that you kind of mentioned, Lance, or you didn't mention, but you kind of brought into my head when you were talking about how they have these guys they bring in for specific reasons. For one guy that I do want to mention is Jordan Hancock here, the first or the second corner they took, because he might be more than just a corner.
It's Herbie Hancock.
Yeah, he's a guy that when they brought it up, Bean said that they asked their scouting department who's the most underrated player in the draft. Every year they ask who their most underrated player is to every person in the Bills scouting. He said nobody got more votes than Jordan Hancock, and he's a guy that's very interesting to me because he can play safety, he can play nickel, he can play outside corner. He, to me, kind of seems like maybe in 2-3 years could be that replacement for Teron Johnson. But I want to ask you guys, we'll start with you, Romeo. Do you think that he could be a player that this year is an impact player that could maybe challenge DeMar Hamlin as that depth safety, could maybe challenge somebody else to get more playing time if they end up somebody goes down? So what do you think about Jordan Hancock and his ability to, one, be a guy that can play a little bit everywhere, and two, just what do you think maybe this year, do you expect kind of him to be an impact player this year?
No, flat out. No, absolutely not. And in fact, I don't want him to be, right? I want him to be Christian Benford, right? Who's this guy? What? Now he's going to start? you're going to play this guy? We don't even know who he is. He's a 6th-round pick. Wait a minute. Holy crap, this guy's a stud, right? And why was he that? Because he was worked in the right way, right? They knew that this guy had the ability and talent to be that good. And they allowed him to learn the right way and watch football and get to know the system and everything, and then get out there and play every day, right? So I think that that's the approach here. Like you said, as a backup to Taron Johnson, great if he wins that role over guys that have been there forever, like Cam Lewis and everybody. I mean, that's a great position to be in. Can he play at safety? Will he end up being primarily a safety? Maybe. And that's something that we could see too. But I think that the depth we brought in and investment they made in Bishop, that position is pretty much case closed for me right now, right? So that flex position, that flexibility, or, is he going to be eventually the replacement or backup to Taron? Yeah, I like that too, right? So because what happens in the last 2 years, if Taron Johnson goes down, I'm terrified, right? I'm like, oh crap, that's not good for our defense, right? Like, he's such a key piece. So if you can have somebody that you're just like, no, this is okay now because he knows the system, he's the same type of player, he can do this too. That's what I want to feel. So I expect him to make the roster, or at least maybe they're able to stash him, but I don't think so. I think he's got to be there if he's going to make it. So, and then you work him in this year. Will he see the field? Maybe, yeah, because when the game's over in the fourth quarter, you're going to send some guys out there just to get experience, and hopefully the Bills have some of those this year. But in general, I don't think my expectation is none from him, right? Like, I want him to learn and grow this year, and I want to hear great things from the coaches about him, but I don't want to see him actually on the field on game day this year, unless he absolutely, it's the super rare exception that somebody comes into training camp and just blows the top off and just says, this guy is immediately needs to be on the field, especially in the position the Bills are, because I don't see him starting at safety. I don't see him unseating Taron. So I don't see him, becoming one of the top 2 cornerbacks. So I don't think there's a role for him right away. But that's why the Bills drafted him, because they said, we see that potential. We want him to grow into it, and we're going to get him to grow into it and then get the most out of him.
Yeah, take that second-year jump that you see so many Bills players take.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so Lance, what do you think about Hancock? Do you kind of agree there? Roy brought up maybe can play special teams. So what do you think about his main role in year one?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Special teams. When you talk about young players joining this roster, John asked earlier about UDFAs maybe making the 53 or something like that. I think that you got to understand the path, and that's the progression and the way that these guys are brought in. And Romeo mentioned there that you're going to have to learn a certain way. There's a path to the playing field, and in a starter's role or in a meaningful minutes role on offense or defense. So, and the way to do that is through first special teams, and then obviously when injuries are inevitable. And I think that when you see Cam Lewis playing so much at different times and having to, could those snaps then go to a guy like Hancock? Absolutely, they could.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, they could. I think Hancock's got the pedigree. He's got, he played special teams, it looks like the first 2 years more so than anything in college, and then went up to a bigger role and flourished, really winning the national championship last year with Ohio State. So I absolutely think Hancock has a path here. I think he makes the team 100%. Obviously nobody's a lock here, but I think that he has every opportunity to make the team, and unseat some guys that may have been here for quite some time. And it's all about how quickly they're going to pick up the scheme, the defense, and be able to, again, play these roles. The coaching staff's going to have these roles that they need to fill. And if this guy can fill that role with great ability, then you're going to see more of these guys than some of the others.
Yeah, I think trust is the key word there too, right? If McDermott can trust you, you're going to make the roster over whatever veteran it is. If he's still not sure, then Cam Lewis is going to be his guy, and he's going to stick to what he knows, and you're going to, make the practice squad or be on the bench or whatever. So, and we talked earlier about the importance of special teams. If you're anywhere on the the bench, the depth chart, lower on the depth chart, you have to be able to contribute on special teams. And that's, this is a guy who can do that and work his way up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm excited to see him. He's a guy that I was actually originally on draft day more excited about the Dorian Strong pick, which John also brought up how he thinks Dorian Strong can beat out Dane Jackson. I do agree with that.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, just once you learn more again about these guys, Hancock is a guy that you just can't help but get excited for, because even if he's not a big impact player this year, let's say Tron does go down with an injury for a few weeks. It could be something that's exciting just to even see him get some playing time against no matter who it is, whether it's the Patriots or the Jets or just whatever team that we play that, like you said, could potentially be a blowout. These are the guys that I'm interested in seeing as Strong, Hancock, even Deion Walker, who I know might get more playing time than maybe the two that I just named, but they're just guys that you'll be a little bit excited for this year, and then going into next year, you'll be able to hear more and see kind of how they take that next step after a year of learning the system. That's the number one thing in Buffalo: learn the system, go from there. So I'm excited to see it. It's definitely outside looking in, I think, for guys like Dane Jackson, Cam Lewis, Jamarcus Ingram. As much as I do like Cam Lewis and I do like Jamarcus Ingram, it's been fun to watch them. I think you get to a point where sometimes it's like, well, have they reached their ceiling here? And do maybe these other rookies come in with a little bit more juice, a little bit more of a higher ceiling? So we'll see what happens with that. That was really all I had about the embedded. I didn't want to ruin all of it for everybody that hasn't gone on and see it. So again, if you haven't seen it, highly, highly, highly suggest going to watch it. It's about 30 minutes. This one is, obviously other ones can vary, but about 30 minutes. And this was one of those ones where I got to the end of 30 minutes and I was like, I wish it was an hour. I wish it was 2 hours.
So good. Don't watch it before bed though, because your adrenaline is going to be going. That's all I'll say is you're going to be pumped.
Well, speaking of adrenaline and blood pressure, I think this next topic is going to raise everyone's blood pressure. The volume of this show is going to rise a little bit here as Ben and I are staunchly on one side, and Mr. Romeo here is very staunchly on the other side of this. And we chatted about it. We know each other's opinions, but I wanted to put it on air because I think it's so interesting, and I just can't understand why Romeo is so stupid. I mean, no, I think that I think it's just very interesting how polarizing this discussion can be. And Gabe Davis was released by the Jaguars, so just a quick thing. I want to mention this. Like, we had the Roy, get off my grass. All night for Roy. We love you for sticking around though, even though we're talking about everything you don't like. So look, Gabe's released by the Jaguars. Really don't understand why, but it's here nor there. It happened.
A GM change. Honestly, that's why, right?
Fair enough. There you go.
They ate a good amount of money though with it. That's the reason I'm really shocked is they decided to eat it now, which I would have got maybe at the end of the year, because you have a guy that you're paying.
Well,
12,
Brandon Bean blazed that path for
that tells me
the Band-Aid right off, right?
Correct. That tells me this GM is saying, every GM wants their guys, so I'm never surprised with roster changes when a GM comes in, no matter who it is, what it is. Nope, that's not our guy. Get him out, right? So that's the way it is. You have to really do that. But when you change a regime, it's usually you're starting from scratch. And then I might agree with you, Ben, that okay, you eat it for a year and then you cut them and you get your money back and you invest it wisely, kind of like the Patriots did, honestly, right? Like they saved it up and then they spent it, right? So I think what the Jags are saying is we're contenders now. This guy isn't helping us. We're paying him too much anyway. Just take him away and we'll bring in somebody else. So that tells you what the Jaguars' evaluation is of him, in my mind, at the very least.
Yeah, I do want to just start this off as well with Lance said that me and him are staunchly. I wouldn't say I'm staunchly. I'm set on how I think about it, and I get both sides. That's the number one thing. I get both sides of it, and I think more so when we were in the chat, it was just more so to see kind of where we're both at specifically with it. And I'm already seeing even back and forth in the comments here a little bit. We saw one nope already. We got one that says they like Gabe. There's just not enough room. And I'm kind of more how Roy is here, where if he comes in I don't think Gabe Davis is a bad football player by any means. I don't think he's a great football player. I don't think he can be a wide receiver 2. I don't even know if he can be a good wide receiver 3. I just think when it comes to depth, and especially when you look at this Bills team, they have so few guys that can play that outside. And Gabe, as much as he has the drops, as much as he has a limited route tree, he is a guy that can and has shown his ability to extend the field and stretch the field a little bit. You've seen it in time and time again where Allen took shots downfield to him, and he would seem to be the only guy that he never overthrew, partly because he's not a speedster, but he is a guy that is a bigger body, can go downfield and contest with other guys. You've seen him make one-handed catches with guys all over him. You've seen him make catches in double coverage. Now, yes, he does have those drops issues. But again, if you're bringing him in, you're not bringing him in to be a wide receiver 2. You're not bringing him in to even be a wide receiver 3. He would be a guy for me that would be a depth guy that knows Josh Allen, that Josh Allen has said he likes in the past. Obviously, we don't know if that's 100% true. But a guy that loved to be in Buffalo. Obviously, it just happened to be one of those things where he's going to get a bag elsewhere. Every player does that. So I get not wanting him. I get wanting him. I don't even necessarily want him back. I just wouldn't be upset with it. I would be like, okay, let's see what he's got. If he makes the roster, then he's proven something that he can be that 4, 5, 6 guy. If he doesn't make the roster, then that just further proves that, yes, he is a guy that has reached his ceiling and maybe even is going down already in his career because he's only 26. He's a guy that still is relatively young. When you think of Gabe Davis, for me, for some reason, I would have thought like 28, 29, reaching that 30. And yeah, I get the negatives, I get the positives, but just I think overall, when it comes to what this team is missing, you just got 2 guys this offseason that can separate. You got Elijah Moore and you got Josh Palmer. Those are separators. You got Shakir in the slot. You got Curtis Samuel, who is a guy that is not an X receiver. Coleman, even as much as we want him to be an X receiver, he more coming out was supposed to be a power slot, but he just doesn't fit this offense as a power slot. So he's going to be an X receiver. So you don't have a pure X receiver. And look, Gabe Davis, again, is not a X receiver that's going to be lights out, but he's a guy that you can place outside, that can go downfield a little bit, maybe have a big game or 2, because you're not going to need him to be consistent. You're going to have to be a guy that, hey, if he steps up, he can step up. And I think it's confusing to me to see the love for how Mac Hollins was at the end of the year and the hate for Gabe Davis when it comes to just Bills Mafia in general. Because Mac Hollins as a receiver is not better than Gabe Davis, in my opinion. He might be a slightly better blocker. They're both good blockers. He's definitely a better special teamer. We haven't seen Gabe at special team since year 1 and 2. But as a pure receiver, Gabe has proven more and has already been a guy that especially with Josh Allen, has already proven more. I mean, he had 27 touchdowns in 4 years. Not many guys do that. So look, if they had him as a specific role, I would like it. I do get where you're about to come from with the oh, well, if they bring him in, they decide to use him and a lot and be a guy that's going to be out there a lot, then I would have an issue with it.
No.
But if you have it out there as a guy that might just play a few snaps, be a guy that, hey, if we have a guy go down with injury, can step up for a few games, isn't going to be unbelievably consistent, because that's the number one knock on him is he's not consistent, but he can have a few big games. Yes. So it's one of those things where if they brought him in on a vet minimum, wouldn't mind it. I would honestly actually root for him. But I understand where people are like, no, just keep him away from here. So it's a weird kind of thing. I know, Romeo, you're about to go and you're fighting at the bit here, but it's just, it's a weird kind of back and forth with Gabe Davis for me. And I know where Lance also stands as well. So I would say I'm kind of in the middle, leaning a little towards Lance when it comes to just like, I would bring it in just to bring him in and see what he's got. But I, again, wouldn't want him to come in and with them have the mindset of, oh, he's going to be our main number 1 guy on the outside and take over for Coleman and take over for whoever, even though I know Coleman, like I said,
now he's in the middle.
College was supposed to be we're in the middle.
Now you're in the middle.
A guy that was supposed to be primarily power slot coming out. And I also see the comment here, John. I know that his interceptions went down. I don't necessarily think this was because of Diggs and Davis. I think this was more because of Joe Brady coming in with the offense and Josh Allen Yes, getting smarter with it, and I think he also got a
Changing philosophy.
dropped interceptions last year. So I know there's a million arguments back and forth. Romeo, you can go. I know it kind of took a lot of time there, but it's all you.
Well, you made a lot of my points for me. I'll say that much, because I'll start by saying what I said in the group chat. Anybody who wants Gabe Davis back on this Buffalo Bills team is nothing short of insane. 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 The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You know who's not insane? Brandon Beane. You know who's not insane? Sean McDermott. You know who's not insane? Our offense in general. Joe Brady, right?
They're insanely good.
They're insanely good, but they're not insane, okay? They're not going to say, let's go back to the well just for the hell of it. Oh, there's somebody out there who used to play for us. Let's bring him back in. Gabe Davis, for me, was the most frustrating player on the Buffalo Bills roster pretty much ever for me, ever. Because this guy does have talent, does have ability, can make these splash plays, and yet he drops it when you throw it at him and there's nobody around him for a mile. Just drops it in a big situation on third down. He just drops it because he doesn't want to catch it. The primarily thing that a wide receiver has to do, he can't do. He's the most unreliable Buffalo Bill I have ever seen on the field, most unreliable wide receiver I have ever seen pretty much in the NFL. Because, again, my expectation, we know he has the talent. We know he can do it. He just doesn't. He doesn't execute. And I also want to say that I love everything I know about Gabe Davis, the person. I'm all for. Good locker room guy, great guy to be around, rallies for his guys. If there was something that needed to be said to the media, he would say it. If there was something that needed to be said to his teammates, he would say it, right? So, I mean, I feel like all of that, he checks those boxes. But during his last season, especially with the Bills, I was so frustrated. I said all along from week one, like, this is going to be a Gabe Davis. Thank you for your service, but have a nice day and go somewhere else. Just go away. Just go away. Thank you, but go away kindly. Just go away and never come back, because, you know, then we can have our fond memories of Gabe Davis in that playoff game when he was electric, the one game everybody references, and then, you know, not think about all the 1,000 billion stupid things he did. Because most of the time when he was on the field for the Buffalo Bills, I don't care who you are, I don't care if you loved him, most of the time when he was on the field, he was invisible. Invisible. He cannot get separation. He cannot be reliable down the field. He is none of those things. So Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, they put together this offense with Gabe Davis and with Stephon Diggs, and they said, you know what? We've got two electric players. We could, you know, Diggs is good at everything. This guy can get down the field and get open when people are covered, you know, and I'm telling you, what did they say? They said, we can't get over the hump. We can't win playoff games this way. This team, this inconsistency is the problem. The inconsistency is a problem. So for 3 years, what have they done? They have gotten more consistent. Khalil Shakir, the best hands in the NFL, the most reliable target in the NFL, set records, right? Because he catches a ball. So now Josh Allen has something he'd never had before, which is a guy that, oh shit, something's going wrong. I'm just going to throw it to Khalil Shakir because he's going to get his hands on it or make a play or be able to catch it, right? You could never get that out of Davis. You couldn't really get that out of Diggs. I mean, he would do it, but not to the point of Khalil Shakir when it comes to reliability of catching the ball and getting to the ball and getting your hands on it. Same thing. Okay. So now what do we bring in? Curtis Samuel, a speedster who actually has a record of, you can play him all over the field. He can get open. Now, I was super excited for Curtis Samuel last year. Obviously, we know the injury really derailed that, right? But I'm still super excited to see what he can bring to this offense with a true relationship with Josh Allen, if they're able to do that on the field. You bring in a guy like Josh Palmer. You said it, Ben. What is he? He's reliable. He can run routes. He can get open. That is what this team is now. That is the identity of this Buffalo Bills team now. Why? Because it worked. Josh Allen won the MVP. We won so many games. We dominated the division. We got all the way to the AFC Championship game, which we should have won, right? But the point being is, Gabe Davis is the furthest thing that this roster needs. The furthest. What Gabe Davis does well, okay, you want to give him credit where credit is due? Sure. but that does not fit anywhere on this team, not as a 7th wide receiver. His whole mentality, how he plays the game, his approach, what he's good at, the funky way he catches the ball, the funky way he runs routes, the unreliability, none of that. That is all at the top of the no, we do not want this guy anymore list. And again, Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane have showed us that's how they're building this team. So the fact of the matter is, I will be personally completely floored if Brandon Beane even throws him a bone and says, come on this roster and see what you can do. Because I don't want that guy around any of my wide receivers, any of them. Don't talk to my 7th round pick. Do not talk to him. I don't want you rubbing off on this guy in any way, shape, or form, because you're the old school way. And we're not doing it that way anymore. We're doing it this way. We want consistency. We want route running. We want good hands that are reliable. Okay? Yeah, I don't care if you're 5 foot tall. If you can catch the damn ball, get out there and you got a shot. Right? I'll take an undrafted dude out of nowhere state university over Gabe Davis right now, because that, again, your mentality of who you are, Gabe Davis is who he is. He's not going to change all of a sudden, right? And again, maybe he can contribute. Go to the Giants. Have a nice day, right? Be their 4th wide receiver, whatever. Have a great time. Do not come anywhere near my football team, because it's not who we are anymore, and he doesn't fit that. And like you said, special teams, we just did a whole segment on special teams and how guys on this roster who are depth have to play special teams. Gabe Davis doesn't do that, and he's not going to all of a sudden. So, the blocking, oh yeah, okay, we just got the tight end who can do that. So, I mean, I just don't see anywhere on this roster where he can even fight for a role. And again, I'm not even throwing him a bone if I'm being, because it changes the entire mentality of the room. And now you're bringing back a guy to the point of, chemistry with Josh Allen. Yes. Why? Because that was force-fed, because he was the only option next to Diggs that was like, oh, okay, well, if Diggs is getting double covered, somebody's open out there, and it's Gabe Davis. And again, just having watched every snap that Gabe Davis was with the Buffalo Bills, the most frustrating player ever, because I felt like a different player would have caught 90% of the ones he dropped. Did he make some electric plays? Absolutely. But it was the ones he missed and the ones where completely uncovered and still drops it. Like, that to me is like the most low, unacceptable thing. Like, no, you cannot do that as a wide receiver. So now I went on my rant, but that is just, I mean, I would be completely shocked if Beane even throws him a bone, right? And we know the Bills have a history of doing this. Jordan Phillips, one of my favorite players ever. When he was on this team, he was the rally guy on the field. He still was, even when he came back. When it was time for him to get paid, Beane said, you know what? We love you. We do. But it's time for you to get paid, and we're not going to give you that much money. And I agreed. He wasn't worth that much money to this team. He left, but then it didn't work out for him. He got cut almost similar. Mirrors this, right? Different position, but mirrors it. Why did we welcome him back? Because we did have a need and a role for him, because it wasn't his play on the field that was frustrating. It was the fact that he got paid. Gabe Davis also got paid, but the Bills were never going to give him that much money, and never probably were interested, in my mind. Again, just based on the direction they went. They said, this is where we've been. This has only gotten us so far. We're totally changing the approach. And even now, as we've said, Brandon Beane gets criticized for this. Oh, where's that top guy who can make an explosive play down the field? Or where's the true number one? No, we don't care. He basically said, F off. That's not how we're doing things. And our guy just won the MVP with the way we're doing it. So it's working, right? And again, I agree. Yes. Do more of the thing that worked, less of the thing that didn't. That's where the insanity part comes for me. This is working for you. That didn't. Don't be insane and go back and expect it to be different. It's not. Jordan Phillips was who he was still when he came back to the Bills. A rally guy who played those snaps, who made impact plays. He was a little bit older, but, I still love that role for Jordan Phillips. So, yeah, right. I mean, there's love there, but it's got to be in the right situation, and this is not it at all. And I think it would only taint his image as the Bills to come back and try and play for scraps, basically.
Well, I think as much as you said Ben made your points, you made my points for me as well. With the reason, like, we just also talked about niche roles and different things. Like, yes, Gabe Davis can block as a wide receiver. We know they love that because they had Mac Hollins. They love Mac Hollins' ability to stretch the field. Gabe Davis has caught plenty of downfield balls, 98-yard touchdowns and such.
Don't give me that, though, because you can't say he's caught plenty without saying he's dropped more of them. He's dropped way more than he's actually caught. It's
But
just
we're not
better
doing it.
highlight reel
most
when he
of his
catches them.
drops though were those 10, 15 yarders, not many
Yeah, on the
downfield.
side,
because
they're
he
throwing
made
it
a lot
out
of
on the sideline,
one-handed
up in the air. Yeah.
downfield, a lot
But
of deep ones.
even on the routes he ran downfield, 90% of them he couldn't get open. He couldn't get separation, especially in the big moments. And again, it's with the third cornerback because Diggs usually had the top two guys on him, and
Right.
Gabe
Well, we
couldn't
don't
get
really
it
need
done.
to. We don't really need to. Again, so you said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. So here's my argument now is we're not going to do the same things. We're going to adjust the roles, adjust the expectation. You said yourself the expectations of Gabe were up here, and he didn't meet them, and that's why you feel so strongly about this. So let's bring those expectations down to the floor. No expectations. He's free. He doesn't count against the salary cap because he'd be a bottom. He wouldn't be a top 51 contract. Okay. He comes in, he works his ass off. He's one of the hardest working people in the league. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
You
no,
disagree that he's hard
no,
worker?
no.
So
I
that
don't.
thing,
My
he's
point.
not going
No,
to
I was
magically like make people drop the ball. He's not going to
no.
rub off on receivers and say, "Oh, because I shook your hand, you can't catch anymore." Like that's not going to happen. He works hard. He can,
That's
and
part
I'm
of
not
my.
saying he's going to, but he has the ability to show up on special teams should they bestow that role upon him. Should he? Now, he probably won't. Okay, but that's not the discussion here. Yes, he can find plenty of other roles elsewhere as they're 3 and 4 and have way more expectations. But if he wants to come to Buffalo to try to be a part of this, he would have to accept a certain, and that's my point on this is if he wants to be here in a controlled expectation environment with controlled roles, you're going to do these things and you can come compete for a roster spot doing these things. And if it doesn't work out, see you later. It was free. You go find a team somewhere else. He's
the
probably
problem
not
is-
going to come here because he doesn't want to accept that
Hopefully
reduced
not, yeah.
role. It would be a reduced role for him. He's used to trying to compete for a top 3 wide receiver position.
And
he hasn't done that. He can't do that. He's not going to be successful at that at this time in the league. It's almost been proven. And I can agree with a lot of that. What I'm saying is it costs you nothing. Yes, it will, they'll have to pay him, but on the cap, it costs you nothing to bring him in and compete for a specific role that's not the same as what his role was in the previous regime. He's not going to be a wide receiver 2. He's going to be a package player when they need X, Y, and Z out of a receiver. They're going to put him in this role, take a shot down the field. He's scored 98-yard touchdowns plenty of times.
I don't want him there, though.
He can block. Matt Collins is gone. There's not really a guy who can step in and block unless you're going to have Keon do that. But his arms are so fragile. He hurt his wrist blocking last year, I believe. So it's like, Gabe Davis is strong, can do these things, and we don't have that role on our roster right now unless somebody like Tyrell Shavers is going to do something like that. So there's no real this is kind of a funny thing too, is like there's no saying that this couldn't happen either. If he
that would be great.
Brings it in, like he can
Hypes
bring him
up
in to
a little.
compete. Yeah, and then show him off in a preseason game, right? Show him off in a preseason game and get a freaking 6th-round pick. 6th-round picks for Bean are like gold, man.
Yeah, that's
true. It's a genius idea.
I like this. I like
really
that's the first Gabe Davis idea I've liked. The first one I've liked.
I understand completely that your point, but it costs you nothing. He's not going to cause people to drop balls. Like his problems aren't going to go on to other people. Like people aren't going to be worse separators because they're around him. Like he's just going to work hard and show these guys
that's part of the
what
problem.
it takes to make it in the NFL.
That's
and
part
show
of the problem.
Perseverance. That's a good point for
fool me once, shame on me. He's going to fool them again. He's going to make this roster, and he's going to blow the big play when it counts the most.
We're not going to put him in for the big play, though. He's not going to be in for the big play.
That is who he is.
To both your points, so I guess to finish it off here, because I know that we've kind of gone in circles with how we all think about him.
Yeah, we agree on the points.
I think we all agree that the likelihood of him even coming back is very low, just because of what they look like.
He would have to want to, right? That's the big thing. He
And
would
we-
have to
we
say, you know what, I
mentioned-
want to come back to this
We
culture.
I
mentioned
want to
Matt
come play
Collins a
special
little bit.
teams and play a lower role. That's it.
Well, the big part to me that tells that they probably won't is, and even if he did want to, they probably won't bring him in, is because he is very similar to Matt Collins. Has some drop issues here and there, is more of a big body guy, block well. Obviously, Davis has played special teams in the past, hasn't in years, though, so who knows if he'd be even close to as good? Probably not. And they moved on from Mac and said, no, we're not going to match your contract in New England. Them doing that pretty much tells me that they're not looking for that type of guy. So I do
But what did
think
he get in New England? Didn't he get like 12 million or something?
I thought it was like
You're bringing
3
in
per
Gabe
year.
Davis for like
I thought it was like real low. I thought it was like
okay,
2
well, you're
years,
bringing in
million,
Gabe for
5
like
million.
Something
one
like
and a
that,
half.
yeah.
You're not even really counting his salary
I think it was
because
like
he's
True,
getting all
you're
the
right.
money from the
I
other
agree with Lance
from
there.
the
I think
Jaguars. You
if
know,
Gabe signs anywhere, he's already gotten his money, so he's
Yeah,
that
but
minimum.
either way, if they would have wanted a guy like that, where it's a blocker guy that might not have the best hands, might not be the best route runner, because even Mac, when he did make plays, a lot of times
100%.
he was covered and just had to muscle through it. So I think they pretty much are not looking for that. So I don't think Davis will even be a guy that they even
Agreed.
entertain, like we've said. But if they do, I do get, like I said, I got both sides of nobody wanting him to come near, but I also get like, why not? Let's see what he can do. And the fear of, if he's in for a big play, well, he might mess it up, but I don't think they would have him in for a big play, even if he does make this team. So, it's a back and forth thing where I think, and if it does come true, we'll have to have Romeo back on just to talk about it more.
Vomit all over the place.
But I think we all could agree most likely it will not happen. I think that they're set with who they have. And if they decide to bring him in on a practice squad because he can't make it elsewhere, I wouldn't even mind that as well. Because if somebody goes down,
Don't mind that.
bring him in for a few
That's
games.
the part where I do open the door. If he's a practice squad guy, I even said, let him sign with somebody else's practice squad and be your emergency guy, right? Like, because if we're down to the bare cupboards and 5 guys get injured or whatever, at least you know what he is when you bring him in, right?
Yeah,
and you know he has the chemistry. And then all those
exactly
points come in. They get highlighted with that.
He's not a 550 guy every game, but he could be a guy that 2 weeks a year, if you bring him in, could have 100 and score.
But those were the expectations, though. Those were they wanted him to everyone wanted him every week to do this Mr. Consistency thing where he's not. He's a boomer bust guy.
Yes.
He either gets the matchup or he doesn't. He either gets the guy to take the play fake and bite down so he can run past him, or he doesn't. But that's fine. If defenders are going to run with him, that opens up underneath, and we have so many good players underneath.
I do.
So,
also
he's not going to be asked in the big moments to go down the field and catch the game-winning touchdown anymore. That's not his role, and that's not what I'm advocating for. But all the other things, the hardworking mentality, just that whole dog of a football player, is why I want Gabe Davis back. And let's be honest, I have his freaking jersey, and I want to be able to take it out like I did Trey White's. All right.
Hell yeah, I still got
this
my
is the
Trey
reason,
White.
really, is that I want my jersey purchase to be relevant again. And
I do also think that Gabe, yes, he wasn't as consistent, but he also, had towards the end of his tenure in Buffalo had some pretty bad luck when it came to, and I want to bring my comment back up here again. His offensive coordinator only running him 3 routes a game was also part of it, because I think it was Patrick Peterson after the Steelers game where he literally came out and was like, "Yeah, we watched the film. That's all that he does is run 3 routes, and that's because that's all they ask him to do." So, was it a mixture of probably the fact that he didn't have it? Yeah,
couldn't. Right. That's not the strength of his game. I think we can all agree with that. Right. But also, one of the biggest points that none of us have really truly brought up yet is injury, right? He's coming off a major injury. He was not able to do squat in Jacksonville with their team, unfortunately, mostly due to injury, you would assume. But, that's unfortunate. And the assessment, again, of the Jaguars to say, yeah, we owe you a bunch of money, but you're out of here, to me, is a giant red flag of, is this a medical thing where it's just like, we don't think you're ever going to be that guy again, based on our evaluation of what our doctors are telling us happened to you and the recovery that's happening now, right? So that to me is a bigger red flag of, if he doesn't end up anywhere and he does end up on a practice squad, that's probably the key reason, is there's some medical red flags that are there that is presenting itself, and teams are saying, you know what, he was a 50-50, maybe a good chance guy to begin with, and now with these injuries, he's not even that. So you're a practice squad guy in that case.
Well, like I said, though, if he does end up signing, we'll have you back on, and we'll be able to
Yes,
have a
definitely.
little more conversation there. But yeah, I don't think at least if when you're back on, I don't think we'll be talking about Gabe Davis. I think we'll be talking about something else because I don't
That's
think
right.
it will happen.
That's right.
But yeah, well, we had to talk about it. I think everybody kind of knew we had to talk about it.
And it was a fun conversation. I will say our chat, our Built in Buffalo chat, was very much on both sides as well. You know, we had the back and forth, but these are the good conversations to have as Bills Mafia, right? We can debate these things. We can be on either side and still love each other at the end, right? This isn't today's politics, right? This is Bills Mafia saying, how can we take advantage of this situation that has presented itself? And should we, right? And those are the good conversations to have.
And glad that for anybody that's
for
stuck
calling me
around.
stupid earlier.
I loved it though. It was in the spirit. I felt it in my heart, the spirit of that. That was and just coming from you, you know, if it was somebody else, it might not be right. But coming from you, I appreciated it.
And we do appreciate as well everybody that stuck around, especially in the comments. I know, especially during this convo, a lot of people started getting going in the comments. Love to read all the comments there. And it even like you said, Bill Buffalo chat was pretty kind of all over the place with it, with thoughts on it. Even Bill's Mafia, I think, is the same way with it, of just what it is. We'll see if it ends up happening, but glad you were able to hop on with us. I do wanted to just also give another quick shout out as well to Monster Energy, our official sponsor here. Shout out to them. We're always at Big Tree in with us during the season. So if you're there and you're tailgating, stop on by during the season. Buffalo Billiards Sportsmore, that helmet behind Lance that you see, that is their work. Go check them out as well. They do some great stuff over there. Yeah, I mean it was a great show again. We'll have Scott on next week. I know everybody loves to hear Scott's takes there as well. So
schedule releases next week. We didn't really get to much of it this week. Sorry,
yeah,
but that was going to be more predictive than anything, and I don't know anything that you don't know. So
That's right.
Our guess is as good as
the
yours.
Games we have circled, right? We could talk about that. I mean, I go to Miami every year because my uncle lives down there. We play Philly at home, Kansas City. There's some big games to look for on the schedule this year. It's going to be a fun one when it comes out. But yeah.
So we'll have a lot to talk about next week. Again, appreciate everybody in the comments there. It was an awesome show. Again, Romeo, appreciate you hopping on.
Thanks for having me.
As we always say at the end of the show, go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.